Hello and welcome to re:Invent. Today we are going to talk about enhancing your apps with Amazon QuickSight Embedded Analytics. My name is Jose Knuckle-John and I'm Senior Manager for Amazon QuickSight. Joining me today are Dhanraj Sriyan from 3M and Usman Ismail from Bolt, our customers. In today's session, we will first talk about the power of embedded analytics and why embed at all. We talk about why QuickSight for this job. Then we'll get a glimpse of how you can get started with QuickSight for embedded analytics, and then hear from Dhanraj and Usman about their experiences. So why embed analytics in your applications? We are today in a world full of data. More data has been generated in the last 2 years than all of history. Applications themselves constantly generate data, whether it's about the application itself, related transactions, user behavior within, or more. But all of this data in its raw form is just noise to end users. Now, the typical challenge with data is twofold. First, you have to make sense of this vast amount of data. And second, once you have those insights that you derive, how do you deliver them to the end user in a meaningful, actionable manner? And that's where, with AWS, you have a broad suite of data and analytics services that help you generate insights from data. Now, once you have these insights, how do you make them available to your end users? And that's where embedded analytics comes into play. You can provide timely, actionable details that help your users make data-driven decisions with embedded analytics. Now, this applies whether you are trying to build a SaaS application for hundreds of thousands of users, or you're trying to build an enterprise application for your company, for your internal population, or simply providing public statistics or dashboards for millions of users. Embedded analytics allows you to present actionable insights to your users every step of their journey. Now, from a business perspective, embedded analytics can accelerate growth by providing a highly differentiated product. The degree of differentiation is of course controlled by you, because you are able to determine what level of insights and analytics you want to add to the application. You can create data-driven experiences ranging from simple visualizations across the board, interactive dashboards that go deep with insights, or even natural language querying of data, which allows users to get started and simply ask questions of data without any prior knowledge of analytics. Lastly, embedding analytics also creates new data monetization opportunities, because you're now unlocking new value for your customers from data that was previously not available to them. From a technical standpoint, embedding analytics greatly enhances the time to market. You can get your embedded pieces out to market really quickly without having to worry about open source libraries, data connections, data scaling, or scaling the entire infrastructure as you roll this out to market. You also are able to reduce ongoing expenditure, because you no longer have to have dedicated teams that are just building out embedded analytics. You no longer have to worry about software upgrades and such from time to time, because all of this is now captured in that one single analytics package. And of course, depending on your platform of choice, you also have deep analytical capabilities that are now available, ranging from exploration of data interactively using a mouse and keyboard, or even deep machine learning powered insights, which are possible now with embedded analytics. That's why we would like to present Amazon QuickSight for your embedded needs. Now, Amazon QuickSight is a scalable, embeddable, ML-powered BI service that we conceived for the cloud. QuickSight is built for scale, which means that whether you want to start with tens of users, but you want to roll out to hundreds of thousands of users, there is no infrastructure management or servers that you need to think about. QuickSight also connects to databases, data warehouses, and data lakes, so you can connect and use your data as it stands. QuickSight has a focus on the developer, which means that we have APIs that allow you to connect to your data, use assets in QuickSight, roll them out programmatically. It also has native multi-tenancy and integration options, for example, a JavaScript SDK to help you integrate better with your front end. QuickSight is ML powered, which means that we have ML integrations from Amazon Web Services. So for example, if you have SageMaker being used in your platform, you can easily connect and use that data in QuickSight. QuickSight also provides automatic out-of-the-box ML integrations, such as anomaly detection, forecasting, and more. And with our latest innovation, which is Amazon QuickSight Q, you are able to provide your end users with the ability to simply ask questions of their data without any training needed. And lastly, QuickSight is enterprise ready, which means that you have high availability, security, access control, and compliance all built in. Now, QuickSight offers a variety of options for your embedded analytics needs, ranging from interactive dashboards that you can add to your applications. You can deliver personalized emails to your end users with the analytic content or with PDFs simply attached to them. You're able to provide self-service authoring, which means that power users in your app can now create their own dashboards with data that's specifically curated for them. And of course, as we just discussed, you are able to add natural language querying to your application so that users can simply ask questions of their data. All of this available from QuickSight with APIs for your applications. Now let's take a quick look at how you can try this out in minutes. Now the first thing you do is create dashboards in QuickSight. With our new freeform layout, you are able to create dashboards that are pixel perfect with overlays, images, and also conditional rendering of content. Once you create your dashboard, you can customize it, both using granular customizations available, as well as themes that you can use for repeated customizations. Once the dashboard is ready, you can work with an administrator to allow list the domains where you'd like to embed. So these would be the domains where any content from your account can be embedded. And once you do this, QuickSight has a new option which allows you to simply copy the embed code and then take it to where you want to embed. So in this case, let's say you want to embed this in SharePoint for an internal portal. You'd simply paste the embedded code and then you'd have the dashboard available to you. Now you can share this with all of your users, and there are no servers needed to scale this. So this means that you are able to get started with embedding really quickly, share content with all of your coworkers or folks in the organization without any constraints. Of course, governed by the security models that you want to put in place. Now, in the case of many SaaS applications, a slightly different experience is expected, where you are able to provide seamless authentication based on the schemes that you already have in place in the application. QuickSight provides for this use case by allowing you to directly request for an embedded dashboard via API and passing tags along which specify what filters are to be applied. Now, what this means is that your application can now call QuickSight and say, I want dashboard ABC with filters X and Y applied. These filters will not be editable by the end user. And so it provides a way for you to quickly serve dashboards to tens of thousands of users simply using the APIs and not having to provision any users within QuickSight itself. Now let's take a look at a quick demo that shows you these multi-tenant dashboards in action. Now, for the use case where you want to provide your power users with authoring capabilities, QuickSight provides for multi-tenancy, which is implemented through a concept called namespaces. This allows you to isolate users across your tenants. So if you have, let's say, 1,000 customers, you can put them across 1,000 namespaces so that users from each of these, power users from each of these, can work with data that belongs to them and share it with other users within their own organization, but not share across different tenants. You can also secure data in such a scenario by using row and column level security, which is available in QuickSight. And all of this, of course, can be implemented and managed via the APIs, including concepts like versioning of dashboards and migrating of assets across accounts and regions. For example, PeopleScout, a TrueBlue company, is the world's largest recruitment process outsourcing provider, enabling over 200,000 annual hires across 70 plus countries. PeopleScout's Affinix analytics platform empowers end users now to simply ask questions of data and ask questions such as show me active requisitions over time to look at what might go beyond the data that's available on the dashboard itself. So this means that with Q, your end users can ask deeper questions, no longer have to send you new reports or new dashboards that they want you to add, but get the data instantly, and with you having full visibility on the questions that are being asked. For more details on Q, we do have a dedicated breakout session at re:Invent. Be sure to check it out. That's with the QuickSight team and the NFL. And now I'd like to invite Dhanraj to share his experiences and talk more.
Thank you, Jules. Hello, everyone. This is Dhanraj Sriyan, Enterprise Data Architect working for 3M Health Information Systems, part of Healthcare Business Group. Today, I would be talking about our journey into using QuickSight for embedded analytics. But before that, let me spend a few minutes talking about 3M. 3M is headquartered in St. Paul, Minnesota. We have 4 business groups: safety and industrial, transportation and electronics, consumer, and healthcare. Healthcare business group represents 25% of total sales of 3M. 3M is the leading coding and reimbursement software in the world. Our flagship product, 360 nCompass, sits at the center of around 2,000 hospitals and processes 274 million unique records in a month. We have our products in more than 20 countries and are used as a basis of payment in 41 states. 3M is the most widely used medical coding software in the world, with more than 300 active industry and technology partnerships. With more than 30 years, we have worked with government agencies, including the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services, to develop and update both public domain and proprietary grouping and benchmarking algorithm and classification systems. Our risk adjustment algorithm calculates accurate payment benchmark for more than 2% of US GDP. Okay, let's move on to our journey using QuickSight. This was our first implementation of using QuickSight in the Frankfurt region. This was for our emergency room application used by the hospital systems in Spain. But before I get into further details, let me provide you a quick backdrop of what the existing application was, the limitations, and where we are today. We had to ensure that we were adhering to the general data protection regulation requirements. Since we were dealing with personal identifiable information, we had a pseudonymization process in place so that the personal identifiable data could no longer be attributed to a specific data subject without the use of additional information. So to begin with, this was a desktop application at the hospital site, which collected details about the patient being admitted via the ambulatory or emergency room services. The application stores information right from the time the patient gets checked into the hospital. It collected information about the diagnosis and procedure code assigned to the patient during their stay at the hospital until the time they are discharged from the hospital. The users of the system were mostly coding specialists, administrative and management personnel in the hospital. The system really lacked any sort of analytical capability. The users of the system did not have access to any sort of aggregated information or KPI and had to seek this information from the electronic health record systems. Any changes needed for the report had to be processed through the third-party EHR integrators, which was very time consuming and expensive and not scalable at all. There were a lot of shortcomings when it came to the analytics in the system. The data access was limited to just one hospital or a facility. The users were just able to access the static KPIs with no interactivity at all. It was very expensive to maintain the solution. It was time consuming due to the fact that we had a lot of back office processing to be done. The information was not real time. And the EHR system could really not leverage all the diagnosis code that we stored for the patient during his visit to the hospital until he was discharged from the hospital. Business leaders clearly identified this as a big gap in our existing solution. So we started exploring various tools available in the market in the business intelligence and analytics space to fill this gap. Amazon QuickSight was one of the first options that came to mind, as we have several workloads already running in AWS but we still wanted to compare this to other products in the market. We wanted the products to meet the following needs. One of them was a SaaS-based solution. We really didn't want our engineers to spend time maintaining and installing the software and hardware when it comes to scalability or providing experience to the users. We wanted them to spend time in building business value. So the SaaS-based solution was really important to us. The next one was embedding. The hospital systems already have multiple applications that they need to jump to pick any sort of information. Having this embedded, we wanted to provide the users with a one-stop shop capability where they could look at the transactional data coming through for the patient right from the time they check into the hospital, get diagnosed, and all those codes get assigned to them all the way into their analytics. So embedding was very critical for us. The next one had to do with multi-tenancy. Since we deploy our solution to multiple customers, we wanted to ensure that all the assets related to a deployment are securely managed. So having multi-tenancy out of the box was pretty critical for us. The next one had to do with security and logging. Since we are dealing with healthcare data, we wanted to ensure that the BI solution was robust enough and would capture all the information with the user interaction, like the what, when, and where. So tracking information, who the user was, what information did he access, and what given point in time, so that when it comes to auditing any sort of information, this data is readily available to us. The next piece was the cost. Cost was an important factor to us as well. We wanted to ensure that the cost that we incur in using a BI solution is easily covered when we deploy our solutions to our customer. Last but not the least had to do with report delivery. Since we are dealing with HIPAA data, we wanted to ensure that the report distribution was HIPAA compliant. The only available option currently we had with AWS QuickSight was email. But we worked with the QuickSight product owners to ensure that we have other options other than emailing the report to the users. And that feature is being developed and going to be made available pretty soon. When we compared other products in this space, on the criteria mentioned above, they were either lacking some of the features or some of them were not existing in their roadmap. And the amount of time it would take for them to integrate this into their solution was either way too expensive or not meeting our timelines. So this made us sway our decisions in using Amazon QuickSight for our analytical purposes. Here is a high-level architecture of the implementation. Each hospital system is provided with a customer key that they use to securely transfer the file to the S3 bucket using Secure File Transfer Protocol. Before the files are loaded into the S3 bucket, we have a pseudonymization process which anonymizes key identifiable information in the dataset. Only the customers has the key to decrypt the information if need be. The users of the emergency room web application get authenticated via SAML 2.0 integration and can access the embedded dashboard that they have access to. They can then slice and dice the data as needed for their analytics. We use row-level security capability to restrict access to the dashboard and data based on the user persona or profile. Here are a couple of screenshots from our embedded dashboard. We use the KPI visuals that QuickSight provides to quickly provide the users of the application with information such as what was the count of the total emergency cases at any given point in time. What's the average age of a patient being admitted in the population for a specific time period? What was the average length of stay for a specific time period? We use the bar chart to quickly provide the users with information such as the frequency graph of length of stay, provide distribution of when the patient is getting admitted to the hospital. Is it the day, afternoon, or night? As you can clearly see, like there were more patients getting admitted during the afternoon and the night shift. So this provided actionable item to the administrative folks of the hospital to ensure that they are sufficiently staffed during the afternoon and night shift versus the morning time frame. The next one has to do with the distribution of patients by age and gender. As you can see, like there were more infants getting admitted to the hospital. So again, this was an actionable item for the persons handling the hospital to ensure there were specialists who handle infants in the hospital. We use the donut bar chart to quickly provide the users with information such as how many confirmed cases were there related to COVID versus the suspected COVID cases, and the distribution of codes assigned to patients at discharge. We use the heat map to provide users with a quick view of the most commonly used or assigned diagnosis code with the capability to drill up and down at multiple levels along the diagnosis coding path. This provided the users a quick information about what is the most assigned diagnosis code, and they could use that for their analysis purposes. Here's a second dashboard from our embedded solution. Here I wanted to showcase that we were able to unlock a new use case. This is for a chief medical officer who can now have a view of all the hospitals he is responsible for and can then use filters to interactively drill down to specific areas. The chief medical officer is able to access multiple hospitals that he is responsible for and quickly look at data across those hospital systems with just one single hospital than the other administrative persons were able to do individually. This was a big enhancement and capability this solution could provide with appropriate row-level security in the dataset. Here we use the table visual as a driver for analytics, which summarizes the year and the patient count in the system. The chief medical officer can quickly click on the year they are interested in analyzing, and all the visuals get refreshed based on the year clicked. With the user click, the KPI visuals get refreshed with the total emergency cases and average diagnosis discharge count. The bar chart provides the distribution of the diagnosis code by percentage. The donut chart provides the coding status distribution, and the codification per user distribution shows the manual coder versus the automated coder distribution. The line chart provides coding status by month and relative frequency of coding in percent, showing how many documents were final versus partial versus pending coded. Over the duration of the project, we collected some customer feedback. They really loved the capability to slice and dice the data as needed. They like the drill up and drill down capability in most of the visuals and the heat map visualization for exploring the coding data. From the technical perspective, we really didn't have any downtime in deploying the QuickSight dashboards to the production environment. Whereas in our legacy environment, we had to schedule downtime and it would impact the users. And also the users did not really have to manage any servers, as this was a SaaS-based solution, serverless implementation, and we could really scale out to multiple users using Spice. I would quickly like to say where we stand today. Like we have a web-based application with QuickSight embedded dashboard available to the users, automated refresh of the underlying data set so the users can view the data in real time, and we use DevOps pipeline for deploying QuickSight assets. Currently, we are exploring QuickSight Q for advanced natural language querying to provide users with some advanced analytical capabilities. This journey would have not been successful without close partnership with the QuickSight product team. There were a lot of benefits in using QuickSight, there were some areas where we worked closely with the product team to make the product more useful for our customers. This had to do with the freeform layout feature that QuickSight has been working on. So this had to do with the overlay of visuals, precise control over tabular data, the tooltips. In some cases, we wanted the users to be able to enable and disable them, and the multi-column sort capability. So single column sort already exists, but the multi-column sort, the team has been working on it and would make this feature available to us pretty soon. The next one had to do with the asset as code capability. We really wanted to treat QuickSight deployment as any other application code. So we wanted the capability of being able to check in and check out using a Git repo, as well as have a collaboration with multiple developers in the team. So if somebody is working on a particular dashboard which had multiple sheets, we wanted the ability to integrate all the different pieces of the dashboard into one code that could be easily checked in and deployed into production. So the asset as code team has taken this feature into consideration and would make this available soon. So as you see, like using QuickSight, we were able to relocate or reallocate our resources into developing business value to our customers rather than having them handle the infrastructure and software to do our deployments. So with this, I would like to thank you all and hand it over to Usman to talk about his journey about using QuickSight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhanraj. It was amazing hearing about 3M's use case. My name is Usman, and I'm here to talk about how we use QuickSight at our company Bolt. Bolt is a hosted checkout company for the e-commerce space. We provide a cloud-based SaaS application that takes over checkout for merchants, fraud detection, and order approval, as well as payment processing. So we are a one-stop solution for e-commerce merchants to deal with their shoppers as they check out. Some of the big merchants on our network are Forever 21, Lucky Brand Jeans, and many others that you might have heard of. We processed over $2 billion USD of payments last year, and that is doubling year over year for the last few years. In addition, we have over 10 million shoppers with their registered accounts on Bolt, and again, that's growing by hundreds of thousands every month. So first, why do we need something like QuickSight? And this came from a learning we had that all our merchants were building a business intelligence dashboard themselves. They were using a hodgepodge of different tools, but at the end of it, coming to very similar kind of analyses. The checkout conversion rates, the approval and rejection rates for orders, and also which payment providers were providing how much of their volume. So we decided to investigate the use of a business intelligence as a service solution. And some of the requirements for the solution were that it should be white labeled into our existing applications to provide a native seamless experience. It should provide visualizations not only for our merchants, but also for internal data analysts so that we could have all of our data analysis in one place. It should allow the filtering of the same data along multiple dimensions, and that should be a feature available to end users and not handcrafted by our engineers on a use case by use case basis. And lastly, we should be able to dynamically select different segments of shoppers, of orders to analyze over time. So what did the picture look like before QuickSight was used at Bolt? And the picture looked a bit like this. We used Metabase for engineering analysis for internal use cases. We used Mixpanel to ingest checkout data and present analyses to our merchants in an ad hoc way. we used Looker for our business intelligence team, and they connected to Redshift. And we also used a whole bunch of handcrafted ETL pipelines that we built in-house to get our data from our internal operational DBs, from our event source data, into S3, into Redshift, through a series of AWS Lambda functions, as well as Kinesis. So all of this was in service of the various data needs, and we were looking for something to unify this into a cohesive architecture. So why QuickSight? Well, one of the biggest use cases for us was this embedded merchant application. And let me dive into that a little bit. We have over 300 or so merchants. Each merchant has several tens of users, and all of those users can log into this application to check out their data. But there are very few power users who log in very often. So one of the big factors for us was pricing flexibility. And what I mean by that is not just that it's cheap, but the fact that we are priced on a per session basis as opposed to a per seat basis, because a lot of our users will log in once, kick the tires, and not log in again. But for traditional Looker-based solutions or any other data provider solutions, we would be paying for them monthly on the off chance that they would come back to our application. Whereas for QuickSight, we only pay when they actually use the application. The second big factor for us was time to market. We are a startup, we grow very quickly, and we had this hypothesis that having this business intelligence as a solution would resonate in our market, but we couldn't afford to invest many years into this before we got product market fit information. So we wanted something that could get us from inception to productization of this business intelligence solution quickly. And QuickSight delivered there because it already had native integrations with all of the sources of data and all of the processing applications we used for our data today, and we were able to get up and running in the order of a few months from inception to productionizing our use case. So what does our architecture look like with QuickSight? We have our clients generating data. They generate both events from the front end and back end, bounce it through a Bolt microservice into a Kinesis firehose. In addition, we have our operational data connected to our client, which is stored in Amazon Postgres in RDS. Those data are ETL'd using an Amazon service called DMS, Data Migration Service, into Redshift. And the S3 data is summarized using Spark and then put back in S3 to be served using AWS Athena. And then QuickSight sits at the top of all of those stacks and allows us a single visualization source for all of this data from the various sources. Cool, so I've talked a lot about what we wanted from our data, but now it's time to actually see it in action. So I'm going to give you a demo of our merchant analytics application.
We finally see the merchant dashboard, and as you can see, we have filters all inside here, which allow our merchants to select the time range they want to see our data over. So start date, and they can specify, and it'll slice our data. And then we allow them to filter this data based on various dimensions, including desktop versus mobile, operating systems, web versus other channels, app channels, browsers, and so forth. We also use these controls to dynamically switch dimensions where the data is pivoted. So for example, we can look at our conversion rate for checkout over a platform, in this case, mobile versus desktop. And that sort of filters to all of these different visuals here. And now we're looking at our checkout funnel. So how many people are getting through each step of the checkout that Bolt offers. An interesting use case of these controls is also to create custom pivot tables for multi-dimension pivots. So as you can see, our merchants can then use that without us having to statically create this. If we switch over to the payments tab, you'll see another interesting use case that we have for drill downs. So our default view is over weeks, but we can drill down to days to see how much revenue is generated by each payment type, and then even down to an hour. So different merchants want to look at this at different dimensions, but we are able to then join it together and allow them to see it at any scale that they want.
So you've seen our application there. You've seen how much data we're able to present to our users, how users are able to slice and dice that data on various segments, and how users are able to visualize their data in so many different ways with bar charts, line graphs, and maps even. and also select custom dimensions for that data to be visualized. So what was the impact of all of this? At this point, Merchant Analytics, this product that we built, is one of our 5 pillars that our sales teams use when they're pitching to enterprise merchants who want to onboard with Bolt. And the great thing about that is we went from inception of this product in December to the production launch in February with a team of just 3 engineers. And then with that, we were able to highlight this offering at the same level as checkout and fraud, which we have taken years to build and perfect. And I've thrown some numbers there at a high level. We've estimated about a 40% reduction in headcount because QuickSight is a fully hosted software as a service solution. We didn't need any infrastructure team. We didn't need deep front end and expertise to build visualization tools. We just needed a few data engineers and some data scientists to get the analysis out. In addition, our time to market was cut down by about 60% compared to other tools or having to build this in-house. And lastly, using tag-based RLS, row-level security, with anonymous users, we are actually able to use the same few dashboards in a multi-tenant fashion for our hundreds of merchants and thousands of users. And this has been a huge win for us from a business side in terms of return on the investment we've made in this side. Even the best tools always have room for improvement, and we've seen some with QuickSight as well. So some of the areas that we've been working with the QuickSight team is to first have better visualization for the assets as code pipeline. So we had to build our own continuous deployment pipeline because QuickSight does support versioning for dashboards through the API, but it's not built in through the UI, and it's not deeply integrated into our CI workflows with GitHub and Circle CI. And this is something we're working with the QuickSight team to address this area. Secondly, our machine learning and AI workloads are managed on Google Cloud, on BigQuery specifically, and we need native support for BigQuery. Otherwise, we have to move that data back into into S3 or into Redshift to serve in QuickSight. And again, this is an area where the QuickSight team is working with us, and we hope to have native support fairly soon. And then lastly, one of the challenges for us is permissions management capabilities of QuickSight through the UI. Again, QuickSight has the ability to manage user groups, but it's not exposed through the current dashboard, which means as users come and go, the assets they created are tagged to their users, and then they have to be manually exposed to other users to be visible to them. And these are, again, an area that we're working with the QuickSight team closely and hope to have a solution soon. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to understand our workflow today. And with that, I would like to invite Jose back on stage to talk to you a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Usman. So be sure to check out the related sessions at re:Invent. We have 2 of them, one focused on self-service analytics with Amazon QuickSight Q, and the other with modernizing your BI and reporting with Amazon QuickSight. Amazon QuickSight also continues to innovate. We have 2 releases every month that continue to deliver innovations at a very fast pace, of course, with no effort needed from you, no software upgrades, no maintenance needed. QuickSight automatically makes sure that everything just rolls over to the latest update. And these are just a sampling of the features that have been launched. There's more that are coming in the coming weeks and months. And here's a set of references that should be helpful after today's session, both going into QuickSight APIs, the feature set, and also details about pricing and more. If you have questions, we also have an email address there that you can reach out to. We look forward to working with you and to seeing you at more re:Invent sessions and AWS summits in the future. Thank you, and hope you have a good time embedding QuickSight.